Hello Year 10 and welcome to your first video on web design. So in this particular video we are going to deal with a question on web design from 2007, which is a little different to the other questions that you're going to get from now on, but it's really important because it helps you create and develop your skills in a particular thing. And what we're going to be looking at in this video is just this question, which is to do with something called a style sheet. And in a web question, you will always have to use something called a cascading style sheet, CSS for short. So, what is it? What does it do? Why do we need it? All of those questions will be answered now. What it is in HTML, which is the language of the internet, each part of HTML is known as a tag. So for example, H1 is the tag for heading 1, which is the biggest heading you can have in a web page. And H2 is the tag for heading 2. And LI that you can see here is the tag for list. And P is the tag for paragraph. So you can see that each of these things here these codes are called tags. And what a cascading style sheet does is it basically decides what these tags will look like on any page in your website. So for example, if I have a style sheet that makes H1 black, a serif font, 36 point tall and center aligned, then what I will have is that will be exactly how any piece of information on my website that happens to be using H1 will look like. Okay, we will get into what H1 is and how do you know and when to use it and things like that later, but that's the concept of how it works. Now the reason why I've chosen this particular paper to do first is really simple. Most of the time you are asked to take a style sheet that is already created and attach it to a website that you happen to be using. In this question though, you have to create the style sheet and then attach it to the website that you're using. So if you can think about it for a second, if you have to create it, and this is the first time you've ever done it, then the chances are that this is probably a very good way for you to learn how it works. So I didn't just randomly decide, 2007, now that'd be nice. I actually thought about it. You see, it's called planning. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to create this style sheet. And the program that we are using in school for web design is Expression Web, which is this program here, Microsoft Expression Web 4. For you to get it, you just go to Programs, Microsoft Expression Web 4, not the Super Preview, just this one, this little green one with the number 4 here. Okay, so this is what the program looks like, and let's just have a little look at what we've got here. As you can see, there is a little flashing cursor, and it says here untitled1.html. So probably you can guess that this is some kind of web page that has yet to be kind of decided what it will be. And you must know it's a web page because you know HTML is the language of the web. So that is what always appears when you open up Expression Web. Untitled1.html basically means a new web page that I haven't even said the name of, let alone configured yet. That's kind of what we're doing. Okay, so that's what this bit is. And the other bit that's really important for us in IGCSE, especially at the start, is this bit, which says CSS styles, cascading style sheet styles. And you'll see here how it says attach style sheet. We'll be using that later. We'll also, at first as well, be using the Apply Styles part of this box to create and apply the new styles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating a CSS page so that I can create the CSS file that you're going to use in your web page. So to do that, I just go to File, New, and see where it says here CSS. I just click on that, and you'll notice now that I have two things at the top. One says Untitled 1 HTML, the other says Untitled 1 .css. And as I want to create the style sheet first, this is the one that matters really much to what I'm doing. Okay? So once I've got Untitled 1.css here, my next job is to find out what styles I need. And these little tags here are the styles that I need. So I'm going to first deal with H1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on New Style. And where it says Selector, I'm going to choose H1. There we go. H1. Lovely. Now, my next job is I need to set up what H1 is going to be like. So you'll see here it says H1 is going to be black. So where it says color, I'm just going to click on black. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of code appearing here. And this is actually the HTML code for what I'm actually doing. But more about that in a minute. Okay, what's next? It has to be a serif font. If I go to font family here, you'll notice that I get lots of different options for font. But you'll see some of the ones up the top here end with either the word serif or the words sans serif. And because we've just been told to choose a serif font, what you want to do is choose one of the lines that has serif at the end. You want to make sure that you do this every time you're asked for serif to keep it consistent. But I'm going to go with Georgia Times New Roman Times. There we go. So that's me chosen serif font. 36 point. That's to do with the size. So where it says font size, I'm going to write the number 36. And you'll see here how it says PX. Well, I'm going to click on this down arrow. And we're going to talk about a few of these, really. So PX, which is the one that it's on when you start, is pixels. IN is inches, CM is centimeters, MM is millimeters, PC is percentage as well. So we've got loads and loads and loads of different options. And the one we want, because it's 36 point, is PT, which means point. And you'll see now that we have here a preview of what 36 point will look like. So this is telling us what the 36 point text, what kind of size that really is. And you'll see as I've clicked on the font family and I've clicked on the size, it's put in some HTML code for me that and that code is what will be used by the browser later to run our web page. So okay, so what have I got next? Center aligned. Okay, center aligned. To do that, I go to block and text align center, just like that. Now I'm going to press apply and watch what happens on my page here. Apply. I'm going to press OK, and you'll see here that I now have a style called H1 that has color black, font family serif, font size 36, and text align center. Perfect. Now, I'm going to imagine, just so I can speed up this demonstration, that this is the only style that we have. In reality, you'd always have lots. But I'm just going to stop here for this video because I'm going to talk about this and then show you the rest in another one, because I can't make this too long or it won't fit on YouTube. So, when I've finished creating the styles here, I make sure I'm clicking on Untitled 1 CSS and I press Save. And it'll ask me to give this a name. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure it's saved as a CSS file. And I'm going to call it, I've done so many of these now that I'm just going to call it demo. There we go. I'm calling it demo. I could have called it loads of things, but demo will do. So now I've got this thing called demo.css. Now I'm going to flick back onto this web page that is empty, and I am going to deliberately go to this little style box here and choose the option heading 1. Okay, and I'm going to write something into this box, okay, like that. So at the moment I just have a page that says this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save that web page, and I need to make sure it is saved as a web page, and I'm just going to call it home page. Now when you do this, it won't tell you that that you've already got one, but for me it will, and I'm just going to say yes. And so now I have this page called home page. So I have a web page and I have a CSS file. The next part of the question would be, how do I attach this style sheet to this web page? Well, to do that, when I'm clicked on the web page, I go to attach style sheet and I browse for demo.css. So I click on demo, press open, select OK, and then if I've used any of the styles in the style sheet, then my information here may change. So if I press OK, you notice how that changes? It's now much bigger and much more centered, and that's because, of course, that's the style on the style sheet. So when I attach the style sheet, it forced this page to show the same information as the style sheet. So for example, if I was to put something new on here, so I'm just going to go and choose heading 1 again, and I'm going to go hello. If that was my web page at the moment, and I went to my CSS file and I changed the size, like say I'm going to have to do it something dramatic so you see the difference. Let's go for 320 point instead. If I save that style sheet like that, you should see that when I click on home page, it has changed quite dramatically. Do you see that? You see how anything I do here is now changed here because it's linked. Okay? So I can now as well change it back. So I'll change it back 36, and I must press save after the change, and there we go, there it is. Now if it turns out that when you're doing this you find out that actually you were supposed to do something else in here, like not just change color to another color but do another change, then what you can do is you can go to, on the style sheet, you can go to manage, and when I go to demo, if I found that H1 wasn't quite right, I could go to modify style. And it might be that I went, oops, I forgot to make that bold. So I'm going to go to font weight and make it bold. Press apply. Save it. And there we go. It's bold now on my website. So I don't expect you to completely understand everything to do with CSS at this point, because you can't. It's only your first ever introduction. But what I wanted you to understand is that the styles that you create in this lesson today are going to be linked to a web page or a set of web pages, and once that style sheet is linked by attaching it, it completely affects what you see on the web page. There we go. So there's your first introductory lesson to web design.